Alternate universes. You probably heard of them. Also known as AUs, it's a reimagination of a canon from a piece of media made by fans, where the story, characters, and settings are modified, with almost never removing anything completely or adding something entirely new. If there's one fanbase I remember overdoing those AUs, it's the Undertale fanbase. There are more Undertale AUs than the Land Before Time sequels. Okay, maybe that was an exaggeration. Some of these Undertale AUs include Underswap, Underfell, Errortail, Inktail, and yeah. While some of these AUs reimagine their source material in more creative ways, more often than not, those universe changes are based on very simple concepts. What if the villain was a hero and all the heroes were villains? What if the characters swapped personalities? What if the dudes were hot shit? And then the universe is built up further based on those premises. I personally don't really like AUs that much, but I definitely see the appeal. Creating your own universe with your own characters, rules, and world building, and then never actually doing anything with it, can be really fun. And when you can just pick up a foundation and change some things here and there, the process of developing a believable universe becomes much easier. I have mentioned only Undertale as an example of AUs, but truth is, many other medias have AUs too. And believe it or not, Pizza Tower got one last year.
Hi, everybody!
Originally created by Tony aka Sugary Spire Guy, Sugary Spire is an alternate universe that is based on two major premises. Number 1, instead of the world being based on Italian culinary, it is based on all kinds of delicious desserts. Number 2, all the characters will swap not only their personalities but also their roles with other characters. You might think this never got past some cool ideas, but what if I told you this is going to become a full game? The game is being developed by a team of many familiar faces. Pinpan, the developer of Paint Veil, is working on the game's sprites and programming. DuckTPK, which has been doing Pizza Tower fan art for a good while, is working on the game's concept art. RodMod is working on the game's soundtrack. And Sugary Spire Guy is in charge of directing the game's development. The project is more ambitious than you might initially think, and there's a lot of stuff to talk about. Before we talk about the gameplay though, we should talk about the universe itself for a little bit of context. All of the universe's information can be found in the upcoming official Sugary Spire Card Co. site. I recommend you check it out when it gets released. But if you don't like reading, I'm going through the main points and summarize the minor stuff. The story of the game is that Pizza Tower has turned into the Sugary Spire and has sucked down all the sweets in the world, so Pizzelle goes on his way to take it down since it's messing up with his business. It's pretty much the same plot as Pizza Tower, with some things changed. The forum mentions multiple campaigns that focus on different characters and have their own stories and gameplay, which is insane. I really like how ambitious this project is. Then the forum goes on to talk about the characters. Pizzelle Suzette is the protagonist of the game. He's a happy-go-lucky man, but sometimes his self-doubt gets the best of him. He fears anything that could go wrong his path, but that shouldn't stop him from stumbling into mayhem. But now that he's less crazier than he used to be, it allows him to be empathetic. The forum then proceeds to explain how Pizzelle got to where he is, like how he used to be the Noice until Peppino threw him far away and gave him amnesia due to Noice burning his restaurant down, and how Pizzelle now has his own sweet restaurant. The Creampuff is the deuteragonist anti-hero of the game. He's a deranged man who embraced his insanity and thinks he's above everyone else. Although he's become fearless to all that is around him, deep down he's very fragile to certain things, worst case it would be his trauma. More information on his backstory includes how he became insane after his restaurant was burned down, and how nowadays he usually messes up with Pizzelle and other characters. And there's detailed descriptions of many other characters, with Yogurt being a counterpart for Snick, Rosette being a counterpart of Noisette, Bartender being a counterpart to Vigilante, and so goes on. Another thing that I want to address is how cool those character designs are. While Pizza Tower has designs that are more crazy and 90s styled, Sugary Spire's designs are much more classy in comparison. My favorite designs are definitely from the bartender and sweet stack, which is Gustavo's counterpart. A fun fact is that there was supposed to be a character in the AU called Rita, which was supposed to be Creampuff's daughter and Pizzel's adoptive daughter. She was scrapped due to Tony having absolutely no idea what to do with her, and honestly I don't blame him. Also, I have noticed the writing is a bit too edgy in a few places. One of the paragraphs in Creampuff's description reads like this: "Everything he had worked up to, disintegrated, burned to ash. At that moment he snapped, becoming the eccentric, insane man we know today." Bro, it's a funny pizza cartoon game. At the moment, there isn't a public way to play Sugary Spire, and all you can really find for now is gameplay footage in the official Sugary Spire channel. However, most of the footage you're going to see in this video was recorded by me, because I managed to become a playtester for this game. How, you ask?
Pinpan, give me Sugary Spire playtester.
No, I will eat your nuts. I will eat them up. Fine.
Anyways, the first thing I want to talk about is how gorgeous this game looks. Oh my god! Sugary Spire has its own color palette, which makes the visuals very distinct from Pizza Tower by itself. While Pizza Tower seems to have warmer and saltier colors, Sugary Spire seems to have cooler and sweeter colors. What caught my attention the most though is the backgrounds. They are all great. Pizza Tower's backgrounds are much more transparent and usually flat, and they have either several simple layers or one detailed layer. Sugary Spire's backgrounds have colors that are solid as the game's tiles and sprites, and they come with multiple detailed layers with strong structures. The enemy designs are also really interesting. They do a good job to be sweet counterparts of the Pizza Tower enemies. Except for that goblin. He looks kind of ugly. The only part of the art that seems to be inferior in Sugary Spire is the animation. It's noticeably less smooth than other Pizza Tower animations. One thing I noticed is that the camera has this moving effect. What this effect does is that it basically gives momentum to the camera following the player, instead of it having a constant speed. I've heard people saying they don't like this effect, but I think it's cool. However, it should probably be toggleable in the final game. Now for the controls. Sugary Spire also tries to be unique in terms of controls, so it ends up being kind of a Frankenstein in this regard. It has many aspects from Golf's controls. The grab goes a straight line, you can do a Mach 2 jump out of a grab, you can't wall climb forever which forces you to wall jump, and the super jump breaks metal blocks. But it also has many aspects from Sage's controls. You can get a Mach 3 dash very quickly, grabbing enemies works exactly the same way as in Sage, and you can actually dive! Thank God! That is such an essential feature that the Golf demo was simply missing, and now it's on Sugary Spire. Oh yeah, you can also parry, which is a pretty cool feature I always forget it exists. When I was playing the game, I was having the impression that Pizzel was faster than Peppino for some reason. That's when I realized that crouching and diving doesn't reset your dash speed back to Mach 3. So if you crouch or dive while at Mach 4, you will keep your Mach 4, unlike in Pizza Tower. This might be annoying in case you want to slow down without stop dashing altogether, but letting go of forward allows you to slow down your dash and still keep the Mach 3 as long as you keep holding the dash button, just like in Pizza Tower. Unlike Pizza Tower though, if you let go of forward while dashing at Mach 4, you will instantly get back to Mach 3, while in Pizza Tower you progressively slow down until you get to Mach 3. You must hold forward if you want to keep the Mach 4. One thing I noticed about the taunts is that they don't reset your falling speed like in Pizza Tower, quite the contrary. If you taunt, you will remain still, but your falling speed will keep increasing. So you can spam taunt just to fall like a rock afterwards. I also noticed you can stay completely still in midair if you do consecutive frame perfect taunts. The tackle dash is a bit annoying. If you start one, you don't have the option to stop until you hit a wall, which sucks if you do it accidentally. The controls feel different enough from Pizza Tower to have their own identity, while still capturing what makes Pizza Tower's controls fun. It doesn't get close to the satisfaction I feel with Sage's controls, since they're incredibly broken, especially when you master them. But it's still great to play around with Pizzel. With that said, I feel like there are a few things missing from the game's mechanics and physics that I think are worth adding. Since I'm a Pizza Tower speedrunner, I know that game's controls from top to bottom. So I noticed a few things that don't really apply in Sugary Spire. In Pizza Tower, if you stop wall climbing while holding the jump button, you get a height boost that can be higher depending on how fast your wall climb was. There's also a trick that allows you to stop dashing immediately while dashing at Mach free. Speedrunners refer to this trick as Mach cancel. There are many instances where it could have easily avoided damage if it could Mach cancel, so I really hope it gets added in the future. You also can't super jump midair, which is a choice I don't understand that much since you can't cancel the super jump into a Mach free dash like in Pizza Tower. The lack of those things definitely isn't a game breaker, but I would personally like to have those features added in. They also kept the one move from Pizza Tower that I absolutely should have removed, the crouch jump. That move was used really often in Wario Land 4, but in Pizza Tower it has no practical use and it's only mandatory in one place in the whole Sage demo, which is, and get ready for this, the tutorial. Even in the most recent Patreon build, only one more place requires the crouch jump to get through, which is in Gnome Forest. And guess what? It's never used in Sugary Spire either. It's not even in the goddamn tutorial! So it's really just a waste that can be even bothersome if you do it accidentally, resulting in a smaller jump that you wanted. At least the crouch stage doesn't make you automatically roll down in ramps like in Pizza Tower, so that's something. But that's really as far as complaints go, and they're honestly just nitpicks. The controls are overall really competent, and there's not much I think they could do to improve it. The playtest version I played has only one full level and a few testing rooms. There's nothing too interesting to talk about them, so let's just move on to Steamy Cotton Candy. This level is great. The level design is really well put together. It's either very open, giving a lot of opportunity to build up speed, or compact, forcing you to make the best out of your speed to cut corners during the slow platforming sections. The enemy variety, however, is really shallow since there's only 2 enemies in the whole level. In comparison, none of the Pizza Tower levels have less than 3 enemy types, not even the tutorial. But just to make clear, this doesn't mean the conflict against enemies isn't challenging. You can definitely take several hits if you're not cautious already, even though sometimes it's not really your fault, but we'll get into that in a second. I just think that having a bigger variety of enemies help making the level more memorable and unique, but looking at the bigger picture, this is a very minor complaint. The unfair situations I was talking about are in reference to the fork enemy. Every time he turns around instantly, which caused me to take damage several times while trying to kill or grab him. A turnaround animation that removes the hitbox for a couple frames would be nice. Another problem is that he doesn't get scared if you're climbing a ramp and he's on top of it. It's really annoying and caused me to take unfair damage a few times, especially when speedrunning. From an S-rank perspective, the level has a lot of points to collect and a few paths that diverge from the main route to notch. I thought the secrets were way too easy to find, but that's also supposed to be one of the first levels, so who cares. The escape sequence works pretty well. The path is linear with the obstacles set far apart from each other, giving the player proper time to react to everything. One thing I have noticed is that it's really long for a first level. An average untrained speedrun of Pizza's Cave might take 2 minutes, 3 minutes at worst. One of my latest speedrunning attempts of this level took me almost 7 minutes to complete. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but it does concern me a bit. Will all levels have the same size, or will they get progressively bigger? Or there won't be any consistency or progression regarding level sizes? The last thing I have to mention is the cotton candy transformation. The best way I can describe it is, imagine the night transformation from Pizza Tower, but in reverse. I'm not a big fan of the night in Pizza Tower just because it's so goddamn slow. It's just a significantly worse version of regular Pepino with nothing to compensate except for being invincible. The cotton candy, by the other hand, has a higher and floatier jump, gives you a spin attack that kills any enemy on contact without the need to grab them first, and allows you to step on special cotton candy platforms. The cotton candy doesn't make you invincible, but it really doesn't need to. I really like messing around with the spin and jump. You can just spam the spin attack as much as you want to if you want to go fast, and the floaty jump combined with the spin attack allow you to skip several platforms and cut corners, which is also a quality of the level as a whole. There are many ways to skip tiny sections here or there, with some being probably not intentional, but that's part of the fun, isn't it? With all of that said, there's one big problem with the level design. There are sections in the level that if you pass through, you cannot go back if you want to. Areas that are impossible to backtrack are a serious problem, because if you miss a secret or a top-in and advance to those sections in the level, you will have to restart the whole thing in order to get another shot at the S rank. Overall, Steamy Cotton Candy is a pretty good level that despite having a few issues holding it back, is still really fun and very well made. Before we start wrapping things up, let's talk about the soundtrack. There are not many songs made for this game so far, but the few we have are certainly promising. The soundtrack is extremely distinct from Pizza Towers. It doesn't really focus in 90s music themes. In fact, according to RodMod himself, there doesn't seem to be any specific direction the soundtrack is going. A common theme I identify in the tracks though is that all of them use synthesized instruments alongside regular ones. The tracks themselves are really good. Steamy Cotton Candy and Sugarshack Mines, which is an unfinished level, have catchy melodies and a good set of instruments. I'm not the biggest fan of Creampuff's gnarly action-packed Themetune though. The instrumentation and mixing are good, but something about the arrangement feels off. However, I do admit making a remix of the 3 stage levels combined is a pretty neat idea. In the end, I still prefer Frostix and Mr. Sauceman's tunes, but the quality of those tracks can't be understated. It's definitely not the Caretaker Everywhere at the End of Time stages 1 through 6 complete, but it certainly has its own charm. Sugary Spire, at the moment, is a colorful world with stellar character designs and a really promising game in development. All of the people involved in this game's development are doing a really good job, and I'm sure that all, or at least most of the mistakes I pointed out in this video will be fixed in the future, hopefully before a public demo is released. And it's with all the pride in the world that I announce this video is sponsored by Raid Shadow Legends.